So now let's go back to your childhood. Can you tell me what life was like for you both growing up?
So my mom had me in high school. My dad was younger than her. I didn't meet him till he was 30. Till I was 30, I didn't meet my dad. I was mostly raised by my grandparents. I would go back and forth. My mom's parents lived in Norwalk, and my dad's parents lived in Bellflower. So from since I was born till 5, I would go back and forth. My dad's parents moved to Palm Springs, and I didn't really see them much after that. And my grandma and grandpa moved to Crenshaw and Pico, and that's where mostly I was raised and grew up at with them.
I would say I had a pretty normal childhood. I definitely experienced trauma and adversities at a young age. I believe I was 2 years old, maybe 2 and some change. I got took from my parents. So my granny ended up getting me and my other siblings, me and my 3 other siblings. So if I believe from the age of 2 and some change, I entered the foster care system. So I dealt with that growing up, and while trying to just experience being a kid. But back in the 90s, dealing with the child care system and stuff like that, and not having a mom or a dad around, it was definitely a lot. But I dealt with that. But for the most part, I feel like I had a good childhood. My grandma definitely did the best that she can, and she definitely did a good job, I believe.
Okay. So I want to go back to your dad. You said you met him when you were 30.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
It was awkward. It was weird getting to know another grown man as a grown man. It was cool. I seen a lot of similarities. I seen a lot of me and him, but I just didn't feel like the relationship was able to really work out. I feel like I had too much resentment. I felt like he had not resentment, but I feel like he felt bad for not being there. So I don't really feel like he was able to handle his emotions well as well with me too. So yeah, I don't know. We met, we hung out a couple times, but I don't think it was really able to really build a bond or relationship after me not knowing him basically my whole life.
So you still don't have a relationship with him?
Nah, we've had a falling off before I went to prison, and he tried to reach out. I'm cool with my sister on my dad's side, but I'd rather just not have a relationship with him. I think it's better like that.
Okay. Do you think you've worked through the resentments you had or held toward him?
I don't know. I feel like I got a lot of resentment from my parents, even though I know my mom tried her best. She was never really around. She was never really there for me. I don't blame her for me, being outside and being bad, but I just feel like, as a kid, you need your parents, you need guidance, and I just never really got that from them. My grandparents, they did the best that they could, but they're from Korea, so they don't know LA street culture and how America is. So they didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
So they provided shelter, food, they tried their best, but I feel like I just never had no proper guidance and nobody to really look up to and teach me right or wrong and steer me away from the path that I was headed towards growing up out here.
And where was your mom?
At work, gone all the time. we always had different apartments. We're always moving. I was always going to different schools. But for the most part, I would just always be at my grandparents' house. That's mainly where I lived at. That's where I like to be at. Yeah, I was just always outside from a young age. And just nobody just really told me, you know, don't be outside, don't do this, don't do that. And I just basically just did whatever I want from a young age.
Okay. What's your relationship like with your mom right now?
We don't talk.
Okay.
So like I never got no visits in prison, never got no letters. It just mostly just my friends and my homies put money on my books, made sure I was straight. Always had bad relationships with my kids' moms. So I got 3 kids with 3 different women. Yeah, that's why I we can go down the rabbit hole with all that, but that's how I just feel like I'm just so loyal to my homies and my section and everything, because at the end of the day, I know I could count on them and they'll be there for me. And if I ever need something, my homies, my friends, my family will always be there for me.
And you said you were taken at 2 years old. Around
Correct.
2.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a relationship with your parents now?
Yeah, unfortunately, my mother passed away in 2023. She passed away. I got her 25 days before I paroled. But I had extremely good relationship with my mom throughout the years. It took us a while to get there. But my dad, I have a good relationship with him as well, but it took us a while to get there as well too. I tell a story all the time, like you know, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, it was just different how it is, you know, than it was back in the days. You know, a lot of our parents was caught up in different things, and whether it was drug use, prison, whatever the case, you know, it was just different. It was a different time back then. But me going through the foster system, and eventually my grandma ended up adopting us, and we became her, you know, her children. You know, I mean, I had a dad. But if I have to be honest, you know, he was in and out of prison as well, and it's like the only reason I feel, and I'm gonna just keep it a man, the only reason why I felt I seen my dad is because I lived with his mother.
Okay.
So that was his headquarters, you know, that was his mom, so I was living with his mom. But outside that, I'm not gonna say like I had all a bad experience, because I never really had no experience with my dad. When he was there, he was there. When he wasn't, you know, and it was love. But I felt like my mom got a lot of the bad end of that stick, you know, and I blame my mom for a lot. But my dad, you know, me having kids and me being, you know, going into a young man, I start to see like, well, hold on, my dad need to be held accountable just like as my mom, you know. But I blame, a lot of time we blame the mom, but the father if he's absent as well, like, you know. And I think a lot of that, like I said, had to do with me staying with his mom, you know. But yeah, once I was maybe like 14, 15. And me and my mom relationship just grew from there, and it was just like love. But I had a lot of resentment towards my mom, because growing up there, you know, the kids was harsh. You know, growing up, man, you know, we ain't got no mom. You know, I'm fighting all the time because of things she doing in the streets. Even to my family, you know, they used to make fun of me and my sisters because, you know, the choices that my parents made. And, you know, to think about it now, it was so cruel because we fighting with our cousins, even adults, making jokes and stuff like that. And I feel like it impacted me so much to the point that I hated my mom. I used to literally hate my mom. Like, you don't know what I'm going through. I'm fighting at school because of you. I'm fighting my cousins. You know what I'm saying? They feel like I'm fighting the whole world as a child, you know, because of you and your mistakes. Nothing I did, you know, we got to take up for you when you're not even here taking up for us. So I feel like that put a lot on me and my sisters as well. But, you know, we was fortunate enough to get past that. And you know, like a loving mother, you know, she came right back in, you know, when I accepted her in. and we picked it up like she never left. So I'm just so fortunate of that, though, you know. But we started off rough. We definitely started off rough.
What caused you to be open to a relationship with your mom again, if you had resentment?
What was the reason I had resentment or the?
No, what caused you to decide to kind of let that resentment go?
Oh,
to allow her back in.
So I start going to jail real early. So at 13, I was sentenced to like California Youth Authority. So so you know, when you're in prison and stuff like that, she just started reaching out. She started coming to see me when I was at SRCC, Norwalk, and you know, then you could get canteen and stuff like that. She was making sure I was straight and just writing me letters. And then just like bro said, like, you know, unfortunately he didn't get no letters from his mom when he was adult, but when I was a kid, that mean everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really in prison as a kid. So she, like a mother, you know, she writing me letters, son, what you need, coming to visit me and stuff like that. And that just meant more to me. And then my grandma was getting elderly, so she couldn't really be going way to El Paso, you know what I'm saying, or Stockton, California from LA. But my mom was making those trips and stuff like that, so she was picking up more of the slack. And my grandma was like letting her, like, but I want to say this, my grandma the whole time used to always tell me, and that's what I respect about my granny is she never told me to hate my mom. She used to always push me like, nah, this your mom. Like, I'm not your mom. Like, I'm your grandma, I am your mother, but this the woman who has you. So I love that so much for about my grandma, because that helped me along the way. She like gave me prayers like, nah, this is your mother, love your mother, respect your mother, you know. And one day when you have kids, you will see. And that just stuck with me. But I think that was a turning point once I got sentenced to YA and she started coming and like she's showing me the love that I felt that I was needing. But it's unfortunate it took me to be placed in that situation to, you know, be in need of somebody. And then, you know, like a kid, you know, my mom, she came calling, and you know, I accepted. So yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So can you tell me about any challenges or traumas you guys experienced growing up? You told me some of them. Is there anything else as you guys started to get a little bit more mature, a little older? Anything else that you guys
dealt with everything, just, getting shot at, getting jumped, women problems, financial problems. I don't think there's nothing that I haven't been through, with getting shot, going to jail, getting a regular job, selling drugs, scamming. I literally think I've been through it all.
I think for me as a child, I really didn't know it, and like a lot of the times, like I'm old, I'm 40, so like back in the days, a lot of these things, it was no name for them. You know, and they were just trying you with all different type of medications. I was diagnosed with ADD and ADHD a long time ago when it was first, and they were just throwing just medications, Prozac, Ritalin, a lot of these stuff, you know, at you to see if they were just practicing on us back then. But it was hard for me to like focus in school. I felt like like back then they deemed me as like a program failure. Like, I got kicked out of every junior high, you know, that I went to. I had to go to continuation school, but a lot of the time they said, oh, he has an anger problem, or, you know, his attention span is not where it's supposed to be. But like, it's like the whole time, it's like, I don't really have no anger problem. I'm just a kid and I'm mad. I'm going through so much stuff at my house. Like, you don't know what I'm going through. Like, you know what I'm saying? Then me growing up, it's like, so my granny raised me. So she was very old-fashioned and traditional. So she wasn't into the name brand or anything like this. So I always didn't have everything that the kids... Well, I had everything that the kids had in my house, but she wasn't into the name brand. So like if new Jordans and stuff came out like that, I wouldn't get the Jordans.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's kids that's like, I wouldn't say in a better position than I was. It was just like the kids who had like the name brand stuff. They used to crumb on me, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, dude. But I always been funny, always had jokes, so I would never take it like personally. But sometimes, you know, in them days, like, hey, I ain't trying to hear that right now, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, I was angry because I was like, man, grandma, She like, why you always, cause my grandma used to call me foolish. She like, foolish, why you always fighting, man? They crumbing on me up here. Like, you sending me to school with this BS on, and they crumbing on me, so you can't get mad that you know what I'm saying, that I'm fighting. Like, you know, the words do hurt. You know, words hurt, and they, you know, when you was a kid, like they hurt even worse. Like, you know, when you're an adult, you able to take, you know, the backlash or be placed under the type of scrutiny. As a kid, you don't know how to feel it. You feel like embarrassed, and you know, like you out there on the island and stuff like that. So I definitely experienced that before I start learning how to make my own money, as far as like nothing legal, like just selling candy and learning how to hustle and stuff like that. You know, back in the days, we used to have a paper food stamps. It wasn't the EBT. So I used to tell her, like, don't give me no money. Just buy me this from Smart and Final. You used to have Smart and Final. Just buy me this from Smart. I'll just buy, you know what I'm saying? And we was able to come to that agreement. So I was able to, you know, to start purchasing stuff like that on my own. But I feel like I definitely went through it as a kid. But they used to say I had an anger problem, but now when I grew up, I was like, I didn't have an anger problem. I was just angry. You know, I was just frustrated because I was going through a lot. So I think
outlet.
that was, yeah, for sure no outlet, because we wasn't going through counseling back then. It was just like, it was either two things. If you had like an IEP or whatever the case is, like it was for academics. Like I never had an IEP for academics. I was always like top of my class, like you know what I mean? But they had me for behavior. So I'm in classes, you know, for behavior. You know, they think it's something wrong with me, and it's not. Like, they never just sit down and ask me, like, what's really going on with you, you know? Yeah. So
and back then they would group all the kids that had behavior issues in the same class, and then it was just a whole class of bad behaviors.
Correct, and they had maybe like 4 or 5 main medications that they used to prescribe to kids, and if it didn't work, they, you know, they just try some more stuff on you, like, you know. But yeah, I'll say that me as a kid, like being diagnosed or being labeled as a problem child, or a person that had an angry, you know what I'm saying, an anger problem, and it just wasn't. I was really sick, you feel me? Like, I really needed help, like, you know, somebody to talk to, you know, just to understand me, and I probably would have been better.
Yeah, and back then we didn't have, in schools, we didn't have the type of counseling services we have now available, and, you know, anything like that. So that did make a difference.
It's crazy, too, because him saying that you got diagnosed with ADHD and that you was always smart in class, that's literally everything that I went through, too. I was just, like, I went to school looking it for, like, to, like, I don't know, like, to, like, show expression. Like, I was always clowning on everybody. I would laugh at kids that didn't have cool clothes. I was always getting in trouble, but I was always, like, top in my class. Like, I never had problems learning. And then they did the same thing. They diagnosed me with ADHD. I took Ritalin for a little bit, but it started making me weird, and, like, I couldn't eat, so my mom told me to stop taking it. But yeah,
what's the other one? Seroquel and all of these?
It's all type of stuff. But, like, yeah, now that you say that, like, when we were growing up, we really didn't have no, like, counselors, or there really wasn't no programs, or there really was nothing for kids. Like, even elementary school, I think, like, especially young kids, little kids, they really need somebody to talk to and just explain their problems and their frustrations, because, like, you never really know what a kid is going through, too. And, like, they just want to say, oh, he has behavior problems, he's just bad, but they never really got to the root, or never really tried to, like, break it down and really see what was the root and what was the cause of all this, too. Like, you explaining that and me thinking about it is, like, really, like dang, like, that's
how it was.
It really how it was for us when we were growing up. And it's crazy thinking about everybody really having the same situations.
Back then, if I may, I said real fast, not to go long-winded on it. Back then, I remember in junior high school, all we had was the counselor, the dean, and the ed advisor. That was it.
Yeah.
I don't remember having no psychologist, no therapist, none of that on campus. I don't remember if it was something like that, they had to be brought on board.
Yeah.
You know, that's all. I remember having, like, an ed advisor, the dean, and the counselor. That was, like, pretty much it.
Yeah, and there was no one that you could to talk to. The only time you talk to somebody is if you was in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked in a school district for a long time, and there was one psychologist for the district, I believe, and he would travel to different schools. But again, nobody was able to just like go in and talk to him like we're having issues or we're feeling this way. Yeah, no, they didn't have that back then, and yeah, they just. I think a lot of kids, because clearly you guys are smart, right? And I don't believe kids are ever just innately bad, right? When they're behaving a certain way, there's a reason for it. There's something going on that they can't verbally express. So they're going to fight. They're going to throw things. They're going to hit things. They're going to do all these things, right? Then get labeled bad. And back then, I think it was really a disservice because they didn't have those counseling services available. Where now in school districts, they do have, therapists on site. They have counselors. When I did my internship, I did, one of them was school-based counseling. So I did work with, I'd be at schools with the kids that were bad junior high boys. They weren't bad. They were a product of their environment, right? They had learned survival skills in their neighborhood, and they had to behave certain ways to survive in that neighborhood, right? And then they come to school, and they're still using those same survival skills, which is if you disrespect me, I'm gonna hit you, right? But then the teachers and everybody on the campus, they didn't realize that you can't take these kids from these streets, bring them to school, and expect them to totally change what they know, right? So they're getting in trouble for the things that they have to use to survive outside of school.